Join us on the show right now. Darren La Sorte, NRA's Manager of Hunting Policy. Darren, how are you, sir?
Cam, I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on the program tonight.
Sure.
Got a lot of ballot initiatives coming up around the country on Election Day when folks go to the polls. In a number of states, they're going to be able to vote on right to hunt and fish amendments. And in North Dakota, there is a rather interesting initiative. Darren, what can you tell us about this?
Well, it's issue 2 out in North Dakota, and unfortunately, it's a group calling themselves hunters trying to ban hunting preserves in the state. They're claiming that HSUS is not involved, but of course, this is one of HSUS's primary legislative goals and objectives listed on their website. And so, it's really just an anti-hunting measure where some people calling themselves hunters are trying to dictate how other hunters hunt. And we're certainly opposing it and actively asking our members and other people in the state to vote against issue number 2.
It's weird. I mean, I'm looking at a story here. I think this was in the Wall Street Journal. They say, meaning the folks who are pushing this ballot measure 2, that the reserves are creating a, quote, elitist model reminiscent of king's hunting for the European gentry long ago. Darren, there's one big problem with that. In England and in Europe, where you had the king's hunting, you didn't have public hunting land available. There was no option for people like you or I to go out hunting. We could go poaching on the king's land and perhaps pay with our lives if we did so, but there were very little hunting opportunities for regular people. Now, here in the United States, we have a lot of hunting land that is publicly available, and we're getting hopefully more and more each year. We also have, the private ranches and areas where you can get a private hunting lease, and then we have these preserves, which typically you pay for a guided hunt on one of these preserves, right?
That's right. That's right. And these are high fence properties. These are property owners deciding to do with their properties what they choose to do. They're very large, so, anywhere from 600 acres to 1,000 acres, larger. So these are people who choose to hunt this way. Now, is that sort of hunting appropriate for every hunter out there? No. But we believe that hunters should choose for themselves the way they want to hunt. And certainly, HSUS tries to advertise these as people hunting in cages where the animal has no chance to escape. And I can assure you, I have friends in the deer breeding business, for instance, who have 20-acre pens that they might have a big buck in, and they sometimes take 2 days to find it in that 20-acre place. Well, these are 600 acres, 1,000 acres, 1,500 acres. They're very large. And those animals have every chance in the world to escape. And that's the ethics of that particular type of hunting. So you're right. And especially in a place like North Dakota, they have vast public lands. They have private land programs where there's an incentive given to the private property owner to allow their lands to be hunted by the public. So there's lots of opportunity out there. I think that quote you pointed out in that article is just an example of the hyperbole going on in this particular issue. And there really I think there are 6 to 10 of these properties in North Dakota. So it's not something that's happening everywhere, but it gives certain people who might be very busy in their lives or disabled people who just don't have the ability to maybe get up in the mountains and that public land an opportunity they wouldn't otherwise have. And for other hunters to try to deny our other sportsmen that potential opportunity is very troubling to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is ballot issue or ballot measure 2 in North Dakota?
That's right. That's right. It's something we initially tried to discourage people from signing on to as an initiative measure. Unfortunately, it made the ballot, so we're certainly trying to encourage people to vote against it. And really, Cam, what this boils down to is creating hunting policy or wildlife management policy. And really, in this case, it's hunting policy because this isn't wildlife on these properties. They have to have all the wildlife off before they fence their properties, and they bring wildlife animals in like elk and deer. So it's not wildlife per se, but it's still hunting. And to regulate this through the ballot sets a very bad precedent because HSUS is going to see if this happens to succeed in North Dakota, they know they can come in and do other things that will, in fact, stop bird hunting or lion hunting or deer hunting or elk hunting later down the road because they're going to see success in the ballot. It's just a bad precedent. It's not the way we should be doing things.
Darren, it also seems to me like this is a property rights issue as well. I mean, it's not like the state of North Dakota has said, what you're doing is illegal. You've got to stop this. This is, again, asking the people of North Dakota to declare a business to be illegal. I mean, it's these guys in the Wall Street Journal, for instance, one organization, one ranch, 25. They got 2,000 acres. They get about 25 hunters a year out there.
Yep.
As you say, there are 6 to 10 of these operations in North Dakota. This seems like a really big step to go after the property rights of 10 people by putting it, on a ballot before the voters.
It really is, and that's why I have to believe. I mean, we've seen the connection between HSUS and this group trying to ban this type of hunting in North Dakota. We saw it in 2008. The operators of the effort last year, they didn't get enough signatures to get on the ballot, and they told HSUS, leave us alone. You're making us look bad because you're supporting this effort that's supposedly hunter-driven. This is really anti-American because it is private property rights. A lot of these people who have these properties would lose the ability to keep that property because of taxes or whatever the case may be if they weren't running these hunting operations. Obviously, there's a demand for them. They're making their money. They're able to keep this property undeveloped, which is a good thing for everyone because, birds and other things end up going back to these properties and using it for nesting habitat and all that. It's a great thing. And so for them to be denied and for them to be blocked from doing it by law and through ballot initiative in particular is just a terrible thing. I think it's un-American. It certainly takes choices away from people who should be able to choose for themselves how they do things.
Yeah. So we got that going on in North Dakota. We're going to be talking with Todd Rather coming up about the right to hunt and fish amendment in Arizona. But I have to ask you about this as well, Darren, because HSUS is pulling out all the stops. Their latest argument, I think it's hysterically funny. They say the HSUS trusts the voters of Arizona. The NRA doesn't, and it wants to take away their rights to vote on citizen initiatives on some animal welfare issues. Yeah, the NRA doesn't trust the voters of Arizona, which is why it's put a state constitutional amendment protecting the right to hunt and fish before the voters.
That's right, Cam, and I'm actually in Arizona right now, and we have a press conference with John McCain on Wednesday for him to announce his support. But you're absolutely right. What's interesting about this is HSUS knows that the only way it can get its radical policies into law related to hunting and fishing is to take them to the voters. They know they can't make it to the legislature or the game commission, so they want to protect this initiative process. One thing we have to remember is initiative processes were created in 1914 in Arizona, before scientific wildlife management ever occurred. I can tell you that the state founding fathers would have probably maybe exempted this particular issue from the initiative process because they know the North American model of wildlife conservation says that science needs to dictate hunting and fishing policy, not emotion. We saw what happened in Michigan when they had their initiative on dove hunting. They ran a cartoon, Dave the Dove, and that decided hunting policy in Michigan. They want to be able to do that same thing here in Arizona. There are some things that need to be exempt from the initiative process. This is one, and as you point out, the voters ultimately are going to make that decision, and we do trust them to make the right decision.
All right, Darren, appreciate you coming on the program tonight, sir, and look forward to doing it again very soon.
Hey, thanks, Cam. You take care.